Today is the 1st of October, and I have to kind of keep reminding myself to pick my battles because not all battles are necessarily worth fighting. Some wrongs are not going to be righted. That's just the way of the world. And for me, I see wrongs that are happening with people that show pattern recognition of maybe personality disorders or egotism or maybe narcissism gaining a lot of control, particularly within the social justice movements. But had an interesting show yesterday, and actually was even more interesting yesterday with Joe and I talking about dependency, and that people seem more eager to learn. Back years ago, I talked about my next door neighbor, my childhood next door neighbor, who was a World War I vet, and just before he got in, like a couple of years before he got in, he had bought an automobile, and it was the whole neighborhood got together to buy one automobile, and they would all drive it, and they would take it apart and put it back together again to see how it works. And I don't think we see that kind of ingenuity today with people going out. And maybe it's because we're not as rural living, but America used to be a place where people were much more mechanically inclined, just because they were more interested in learning about how machines worked and how things work and things like that. And are we interested in still learning the way we used to? Like this computer screen I'm on, I mean, I wouldn't want to open it up, but maybe I would like to learn. Like I haven't even taken the time to just get acquainted with it. I'm kind of afraid of it. Like if I do something, a password will miss and stuff like that. So right now, there are people like me who are still afraid of technology, don't necessarily maybe take the time to know how it works and kind of how the world works. And it's a difficult thing. And I think sometimes with anger and stuff, and emotion, you may think something is right, but you don't want to be like the people whom you're fighting against if you are fighting against. I see people with Black Lives Matter or a Trump sign that says Make America Great Again. A person with a Make America Great Again sign, I almost want to ask them, who are you saying that to? Who are you telling that to? I wouldn't ask them, well, when was America great? My question is, who are you telling that to? Because obviously the people who are not fans of MAGA, they're not going to listen to you. Same thing with BLM. On average, they're not going to listen to you. On average, their minds and ideas have already been made up. Whether it's white power or black power, who are you telling that to? Who are you speaking to when you say these ideas? Anyway, I don't know if Joe has anything to say about what I've said or put his 2 cents in. He's certainly, he said he'd mostly listen, and anytime he wants to chime in.
You know what? You're making some good points. Sometimes the other side doesn't always get a fair look at, and I think most of the time that's what they want. They want the attention, and it's people are going to be in other people's business in this world because they can take advantage of a situation, and it's there's nobody to really point fingers at except we have to take our own responsibility. Is what I'm saying. So when that happens, when people are truly self-governing, issues like what you're talking about go away, because in every neighborhood there is somebody who still can fix a car.
He started to go out on that, but yeah, and in every neighborhood, there's someone who can fix a car. There's somebody who can drive a truck. There is, I wouldn't say there's a doctor on every block, but there are people that are medically knowledgeable, and there are wise people wherever you go. And I remember, just reading about religion back in the day and of the ages, and when it was done just by a few people, and Joe just left. Unfortunately, I don't know if it was his computer not working, but the early Christians studied mathematics, and the Islam, algebra came out of that. So I'd like to almost get back to like faith and religion being where you study mathematics and you study the earth, and certain things are parables. For me, the greatest parable of Genesis, the Adam and Eve story, and the tree of knowledge, for me, is the tree of knowledge of sex. Because once you bite into that apple and you have the knowledge of sexuality, that kind of leaves your childhood. You recognize the opposite sex, and that even though it's pleasurable, it is, to a degree, pleasure at times can be the road to hell. Whether it's a drug problem, whether it's an overeating problem, and as a child, we're never thinking of those things. But once we reach the opposite sex, well, we want to look good, so we try to eat less. We try to exercise. We don't exercise because it feels good. We exercise to look good, but exercising for me, like when I played a good game of basketball or football with my buddies and I haven't gotten injured playing football, and I take a shower, and the endorphins, that for me is the greatest antidepressant that I've ever had. So there's a lot to be said about a really good workout and really moderation with eating. I mean, you feel great when you fast, even though the pain of fasting can hurt. It's still like you feel alive when you do these things. And that's, I want to control my hunger, and I want to control my lust as well, as best as I can. And I think the more you control it, the better you feel. There's nothing, I mean, after a while, you're going to want to eat by nature. And fasting has humbled me more than anything else. And that's true. Discipline empowers. And Darren says the apple was the earth. In my opinion, living in space, there is knowledge of both good and evil, both love and fear. And for me, I take the apple to mean the knowledge of, for me, the best one is the knowledge of sex and the opposite sex. Because once you realize that, then you become. Now we have another JP in the room. I don't know if this is. We have two JPs. Which is this a? Is this a? Joe, is this you?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, you're
Nice.
yeah, can hear you very well now. But discipline does empower.
It sure does. It sure does. I mean, I think some of us are lacking in various areas. Um,
Now you're not coming in, but we are lacking in other areas. And one of the things I pray for is discipline and to give me strength to get me through the day. Uh, you know,
can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
So yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties, but in every neighborhood there is somebody who can fix a car. There is somebody who can grow food. Um, there's lawyers. There are people of science. Um, it takes I think a little bit from all of them to chip in. The problem I think a lot of neighborhoods have is trying to find and connect. I think that's what a lot of what we've been through in the last year has been about, keeping us apart. Because I think the greatest fear to a control system is people gathering, and to not be able to recognize that, I think has been kind of shameful on in a lot, and I see it in every neighborhood I've been in. Just a kind of sense of hopelessness or sense of inability to be the change and be the help. Um, there always seems to be somebody who wants to, you know, for whatever reason, there's a lot of people out there who want you to be afraid of the system, and fear has crept its way into these neighborhoods, and for a lot of people, fear is where they will stay, and it, that's another uh, byproduct of standing on your 2 feet and demanding that kind of change, and to ask your community of that. I think maybe revolutionary at this point. People are used to the benefits that come with following uh, following along with the program, and too many people don't even recognize the programming to begin with. I've said it many times before that the brainwashed don't even know they're brainwashed.
Well, people certainly do live in fear today, as never before. I um, I know people right now, people who are heads of historical societies and heads of and are part of corporations, and they are afraid to speak up. And of course, they're creature comforts, and you get a good job, you get a home, and everything can be taken away. And if if you don't comply, I mean, one of the reasons that so many people in America fought all these wars was what they say freedom and liberty. But if you're beholden to a corporation or to the mob, how much freedom do you have? Are you really free? And if you go along, are you going along because you agree with what you're going along with? Or are you going along because you're afraid? Because you don't want to ruffle any feathers. There are some things that I'll just go along. I don't know if masks are good or not, but I go along just because I want to avoid conflict. There are times when I think that's intelligent. And I think sometimes making a stand, I pick my battles and I pick the hills that I'm going to die on. because there are kooks out there. There are crazy people out there, and I am afraid of them. And I think fear is intelligent. Recognizing your fear, recognizing that there are people out there that can do bad things to you, and having good risk assessment is intelligent. And I don't believe that, by the way, Darren. You said anyone can be free within their mind, even prison. Perhaps. But I don't know if freedom is really a reality, because we as human beings are born a certain way. We are born for food. We are born for comfort. I tried to sleep on the floor yesterday, and it was really hard to get down there. And if I had to have everything taken away from me, and I was to suffer sleeping on a cold floor, whether it was outside in the dirt or or um, or like on a cold on concrete on a concrete floor out in the street, that would almost be a fate worse than death. And people have committed suicide because that kind of poverty has approached them. And poverty, I think, in America is a very lonely experience, and not a good thing. And we're seeing people threatened that way, and they're threatening the weak. I mean, the strong just don't have to deal with it. Freedom and bliss can happen anywhere at any time, even a monk on fire. Yeah, I guess once you're ready to risk it all, you can set there are people that are strong enough to set their whole body on fire. There are people strong enough to commit, I believe they call it seppuku, and put a blade deep into their abdomen and make a very intricate and deep cut. That takes a lot of discipline, and perhaps even that is freeing, because you can inflict more pain on yourself than any other human, or than most humans. And the tougher you are on yourself, the less others will have over you. And I'm not a tough person. As I've gotten older, I'm less tough. But I want to be stronger and more resilient, and I think that is a good idea to be. Joe, do you have anything to add before I end this show? Or anything that I've missed? And I don't know if Joe is having any technical difficulties, or if...
No. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah. No. I think I like what you said. It's certainly important to be aware. That's my biggest thing.
I didn't sleep on the floor. I tried and attempted to sleep on the floor. I just took a nap during my work time, and it was hard.
Brian, Darren said fear is the biggest threat to the world. Do you agree with this?
I think anger is the biggest threat to both anger and fear, and maybe anger and fear are but irrational anger and irrational fears are a threat to the world, and mass hysteria is certainly a threat, and that's right now we are living in a time of mass hysteria. And sometimes there's, and this is not the first time in world history that we've had mass hysteria. This will not be the last time. And anger does come, I believe that anger does come from fear. And Darren said it, anger does come from fear, and we're afraid and we're angry but anger also comes from other places too, not just from fear. Anger comes from self-righteousness at times as well. A lot of anger is self-righteous anger. I don't know if all anger is self-righteous, but a lot of anger is self-righteous. And if you're angry all the time, you're not to be. I don't think it's a person that's angry all the time is a person that is not necessarily to be trusted. Anyway, Joe, do you have anything to add before I end it?
No, I think we are good. I'm just reading through some of these comments. Darren's on a mission here. A lot of good comments today. Thanks, Darren. But I think that's about it. I think opening your eyes is always a good thing, Brian, and working out, like you said, has definitely the best benefits mentally and physically, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, with that being said, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and also share the video if you have the opportunity to share this video, and also visit our website at transparencyandmerit.com.